Welcome to the Unstuck Career Podcast with your host, Ken Williams. Each week, we move along your path to possibility so you can finally have the life you want. Let's learn how to deal with people you never wanted to be friends with together so you can become unstuck and unstoppable in your career and life.
And welcome back to another episode of the Unstuck Career Podcast. This week, I have social media star, Mr. Mixer. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, hey, excited to be here.
That's great. And I love the background. If you're watching the video, you get to see all the Kitchenaid mixers in the background. This is fantastic. And your mixers don't look like my mixer.
Right, so these are pretty old. I actually just recently got back from Baltimore. So there was a guy he was a Whirlpool representative, and Whirlpool actually owns Kitchenaid. They were started by Hobart, right? So Hobart is like, your gold tiers in commercial kitchen equipment, and they ended up in 1986 selling to Whirlpool. But this gentleman, he was a huge Whirlpool collector, and so Kitchenaid was part of that, and he had a massive, massive collection. Unfortunately, he passed away. Fortunately, the collection went to a great home. So I have a ton of vintage machines, love to show them off. I do some series about the history of Kitchenaid. The brand started in 1919, so you got over 100 years of just rich history around the company. A lot of really just neat machines. It's exciting to see how they've changed over the years.
Yeah. So I have to know, were you born loving kitchen mixers?
No, but it does seem like it, doesn't it? I have a lot of enthusiasm and passion around that. I actually my parents didn't have a mixer. I never owned one. It wasn't until maybe like 2016, 2017. I was a paramedic for like 5 years. So I decided to do some, I guess, community service, right? Like I wanted to give back to my community, and that's how I decided to do that. I became a paramedic, and you work a lot of hours and you don't get paid very well as a paramedic. But that's not why you get into it, right? Like you get into it to help people. That was rewarding in its own right. But I had to find ways to make some extra money just to make ends meet, right? And so I ended up at a yard sale because I like to do some like buy sell trade, and I like old things. I like neat things. I like to learn about things. And so I would always find myself at yard sales or auctions or whatever, just learning about stuff, right? I have a weird skill. I basically can just tell you what anything's worth because before I did the buy sell trade stuff, I worked at an auction company for about 10 years. And I've just seen so many things sell that I just know the inherent value of things. So anytime anybody's trying to sell anything, they're like, "Hey, Zach, what do you think this is worth?" And I'm like, "Psh, gotcha, right? Here you go." But yeah, I picked up a mixer at a yard sale, and the people like they swore up and down, "Yeah, it works, it works, it works." Yeah, it was this old turd 1970s. Like they had it's like a pea green or like almost like a poop green. Honestly, it's a really interesting color, but that like avocado 70s green. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And they swear it worked. I took them for their word. I took it home, plugged it in, nothing. And I was scorned, honestly. So I went on a mission. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna fix this thing," and I did. I fixed it, and I was like, "Okay, that was cool." I sold it. I used that money to buy 2 more broken machines.
Oh, wow.
And then I fixed those machines, and I sold those, and then I bought 4 more broken machines. And I just kept doing that for a while until I felt, comfortable around the machines. I started working on them. I started to realize the problems that they had and the issues that they face. And, eventually I was just like, if people are selling broken machines, there has to be people out there who just have them sitting in a closet. You can't find anywhere to repair them, right? And so that's what I did. I just got into it. I really dove in deep. I eventually found out as I went along, there's a lot of people who have issues with mixers because, well, they sell at this point about 3 million of them a year.
Wow.
And, just like any machine, right? Any machine you have, cars, right?
Yeah.
Anything is going to eventually need some sort of maintenance, or they're going to have some sort of mechanical failure.
Right.
And so that's kind of, I found out that there was just this market and there was nobody doing anything about it. And
Right.
I get kind of fed up with like the throwaway culture.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of these things are ending up in the landfill, so I just kind of made it my life's mission to keep these things out of landfills and to, similar to being a paramedic, serve a community, right? The
Yeah.
baking and cooking community. We're a great resource for them, and they let us know how appreciative they are of our service and what we do for them. So.
Right. So has it always been KitchenAid, or was it mixers in general, or was it other appliances?
I started with Kitchenaid and then I started to dive into some other, projects. Like I worked on some like Breville coffee machines. I worked on some commercial mixers. I worked on a commercial snow cone machine one time.
Hmm.
Uh, Even like vacuums and stuff like that for a while. But I eventually became so notable for Kitchenaid mixers that that's all I do now. Like it keeps me busy. In the last, let's see, about 3 years ago, I was working by myself in a garage, and I now have 15 employees now. So
Wow.
we get a lot of them. We probably have, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 of them show up a week for repair, and we ship out 50 or 60 a week for repair.
That's incredible. So what was the tipping point that you decided that, man, I can get excited about mixers?
You know, when I was when I first got into it, like before I even had any success, I was excited because I like to work with my hands
Okay.
and I found it interesting, right? But I probably the tipping point for me was right when like TikTok really started getting big,
Right.
right? And kind of right at the start of, COVID, things like that. All the restaurants were shut down. Everybody was at home. No one was at work. Everyone was on their phones and they were cooking more. They were using these machines more. And coincidentally, that's about the same time that I started putting stuff out there. And one of the first videos that I put out got over 1 million. It was just a simple showing somebody how to do like a simple fix. And it got 1 million views. I got 30,000 followers overnight. And I was just like, that's amazing. I think I found a little niche, right? So I carved myself a little niche in the market, and it's not that you can't be excited to do anything that you want to do, right? But when you really find success in something, it's that much more fulfilling, right? Like it went from being like a hobby and something that I was just like, hey, I'm gonna try and fix these things to, oh wow, there's a real need for this, and that is exciting because we help a lot of people.
Right. So talk a little bit more about that because um, it's not the mixer itself that fires you up, I would imagine.
Right,
There's got to be, you talked about being a paramedic because you
right.
wanted to help people. So what is it about the mixer that you get to help people, but gives you the that fuels your passion?
Sure. So the mixer it really is just like a medium, like a vehicle, right? For
Mhm.
me to be able to help people. And I always, anytime I bring somebody in and I have a discussion with them, like we give tours in our shop or I have a new hire come in, I let them know. And I tell them, I say this, it may seem like we're just making some fun videos and maybe teaching people and selling them some parts and fixing some mixers, but it goes much deeper than that. So these machines, they run a long time, especially the older ones. And so we have seen a lot of machines that are, you know, 50, 60 years old that have been passed down through the generations, right? So, great grandma got it and it was passed down to grandma and then to mom and then to granddaughter, right? So you're talking third and fourth generation mixers that we've worked on. And a lot of memories are formed in the kitchen, like
Yeah.
I think some of my best memories are just So literally just sitting around in the kitchen, like helping cook for holidays. Like that is where family, honestly, at least I come from a big Italian family. So we're
Yeah.
big foodies, right? And so like a lot of great memories are made in the kitchen. And when these people they have these machines that are passed down and they fail, and say you call KitchenAid, for example, they're going to tell you, oh, sorry, we can't service that machine. It's too old. We won't do it.
Warranty.
Right. Yeah, they won't take care of it. And so people they find us, right? And so they send in their machine. We've literally had people in tears because they say this machine, like, it's so sentimental to me. It meant
Right.
so much to me. And when it broke, I thought that tie to, my grandma, or, some people get them from like their husbands for like anniversary presents or
Yeah.
whatever, right? And when those people pass away, it's like it's just this piece that ties you to that person.
Yeah.
And when that breaks, it is devastating to people. And
Right.
I've literally had people just in tears when I give them back a working machine. And that is incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's wild. And our customers, they do a great job of letting us know. So almost almost every person who sends in a machine, they'll send in a note with a story about what this machine is, what this machine means to them. I have one that I'm about to feature on our newsletter, and it was a machine that was used in her father's restaurant for 30 years as a
Wow.
family-owned restaurant, and they sent it in to be restored, and they sent us, I don't, the email was probably 4 pages long, and
Hmm.
it was just pictures of the mixer in the restaurant, pictures of the restaurant, telling us all about the story of this machine, and it's just it's wonderful to be able to keep those machines alive and going.
Yeah. I love that experience that you're creating for people. Do you remember the first time that you realized that you weren't just fixing a machine, but you were changing a life, or you were restoring that connection to a family
I
history?
do. I do. So it was a mixer, and I found this out very, very early. I was still fixing mixers while I was this is while I was still a paramedic. So
Mhm.
this was before I turned Mr. Mixer into an LLC, like, business thing. This was me having a hobby, trying to make a little extra cash. And I had a machine for a lady. She got it from her late husband as their first wedding anniversary, and he passed away.
Mhm.
And I mean, she was in shambles. Like, she was so distraught over the fact that and it was, she broke it, right? She broke it using it. So she felt like it was her
Uh,
fault. She really blamed herself. And, we got it back to her in a week, and it was running perfect. And she was bawling in front of me. And right then and there, I was like, oh, wow. Like, I really affected someone's life
yeah,
in a positive and meaningful way.
it is bigger than just
Yeah,
adjusting an old mixer.
absolutely.
So did the passion for the mixer come first, or did that kind of build as you started to hear the stories coming in?
Well, like I said, I like to tinker. I'm a
Mhm.
tinkerer at heart. And so I did. Yeah, I had an interest. Let's just say that I had an
Right.
interest at first, right? I was having fun doing it. Um, I wouldn't say I was in love with the mixers, but
Mhm.
over time, once I really found out, A, what they meant to people, B, the impact that I was making in not just people's life, but like I said, a lot of these things just end up in the garbage, right? And
Oh, yeah.
that's not that I'm going to go chain myself to a tree or anything, but I like to preserve where I can.
Right.
And repairing a machine is a much smaller footprint than getting a new one.
Right.
And so that's meaningful to me as well. And then obviously just being able to, like I said, I have 15 employees now,
Hmm.
and we are setting ourselves up to be a business that lasts 20, 30. I mean, who knows how long? Like, this is a career for me, and
Hmm.
I also want to be able to bring my young children in, right? I told you earlier, we got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and one day, when I'm old and crusty, I would like to pass that down to the kids, right? And be able to use this as a way to teach them, values and work ethic and things like that. And so that's very meaningful to me as well. So really, the passion and the enthusiasm around the mixers has kind of just been built over
Yeah.
time. But I mean, it's like a ramp, right?
Yeah.
Parabolic.
Yeah. Because I think about my own story, my own experience. And as I talk to different people, I think there's a kind of an expectation that, well, I have to find my passion.
Right.
And so if somebody were to come up to you and say, okay, Mr. Mixer, how do I find my passion? How do I find my version of the KitchenAid mixer? What advice would you have?
So this is another thing that I tell my employees when they come in and they're interviewing and things like that. Um, I tell them that, you know, I want this to be as much as I want you to, I guess, enjoy this job, I want the job to be a good like fit for you as well, right? Like there has
Right.
to be cohesiveness. If you wake up on Monday morning and you say, I gotta go to work again, right? Like that's not a good sign. That tells you that and it may not even be your job, but just the environment that you're in might not be right for you.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people deal with that,
Oh, yeah.
right? Well, not to get in too deep, but you get out of school, you go get your first job, you get a car loan, you buy a house, you have all these responsibilities now, and you're like, hey, I'm in this job that I don't really like, but I don't have any other options, right? Like,
Right.
and you kind of get stuck in that trap, and it's unfortunate, but sometimes your own well-being is worth more, I guess, than your possessions, right? I really think that people are afraid of change,
Yes.
and change can be a really positive thing. And so sometimes people just need to dive in head first and not just, some people are afraid to even dip a toe in the water, right? And so it's like you gotta just, if you are not happy with where you're at and you feel like everything in your life or at work or whatever is a negative experience, like you have to change it. No one's going to change it for you. Like
Right.
you have to be the person to do it. And it's it's kind of sad sometimes that I don't know if people don't realize that, or if it is just that they're afraid of the change, but like really that is the first step in finding what you're passionate about.
And I see that I see that a lot. My story is I was one of those people that my life sucks, but I'm comfortable. I'm
Right.
comfortable with how much it
Right.
sucks. And I love the reminder that if something's got to change, you got to change it. It's
Yeah.
not gonna
Yeah.
the change, the ideal job, the KitchenAid passion or whatever is not going to drop into your lap. It's going
Right.
to be something that you got to take action and build into it.
It's
Um,
built, not given. I mean, honestly, no one's gonna hold your hand. Like you have to take charge, right? March by the beat of
yeah,
your own drum.
yeah. So I want to see if I can ask this question in a way that makes sense. Um, one of the things that I deal with a lot with when I work with people that are stuck in bad jobs, bad situations that they're trying to get out of, and I know that the fear of taking that first step holds them back, and most people are paralyzed by that fear. So I actually have two questions. I'll just ask one at a time. Do you remember feeling that fear when you decided to step away from, I'm assuming that you're no longer a paramedic,
Right.
but do you remember feeling that when you stepped into doing this full time, that you were maybe losing something that was going to be
I
important?
do. I do. So, luckily I was blessed, right? I had a safety net because while I was a paramedic, I was putting my wife through grad school, right?
Okay.
So uh she got her degree. She was a speech language pathologist. I have since retired her by her own choice. She wants to stay at home with the kiddos,
Nice.
and so she's able to do that now, which is amazing. Like
Yeah.
I love that I can do that for her. But when I was the solo, I was the breadwinner of the proverbial breadwinner of the family,
Right.
and I had to take a back seat. I did. I had to take a step back, and I knew paramedic wasn't for me anymore, right? I did my 5 years. It's a very demanding lifestyle, a very demanding career. And so I said, I don't want to do this anymore. But here I am at, yeah, well, let's see, I was 28, 29 years old, right? And it's like, this is all I know. I don't have any more education to fall back on. I don't have any more skills to fall back on. And so I just kind of handed the reins over to my wife. I was like, here you go. I'm going to let you run, you're steering the ship now, right? And she was like, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to fix mixers. And it was, honestly, it's a funny story because when I first started telling people that, I was like, I'm not going to do paramedic anymore. I'm just going to fix mixers. And some of my family was like, you really just need to go back to school and get your degree.
Right.
And some people were like, oh, that's dumb. Like that's not going to work. And I would just stay true to myself, right? And I just started doing it, and it was it was slow for a while. It
Mhm.
really was.
Sure.
But like I said, luckily my wife made enough to just cover our bills. I mean, we were still literally scraping by, like
Yeah.
skin of our teeth every month, but we were making it happen. And I just stayed true to that, and I just kept working and pounding away at it. And after about 2 years, 2 years of consistent work on myself, work on the business, and video production, right? So
Yeah.
anybody who's watching this, make the videos. Just do it. It's honestly, it's life changing. Like people are so afraid to get up and speak in front of a camera or put themselves out there, whether that's fear of judgment or what they. Trust me, you're gonna get judged like you are. All I do is help
Mhm.
people. I do nothing. I don't put anything negative out there. I only help people, and I get some nasty, rude comments, but you have to understand that that is not a reflection of you. That's a reflection
Right.
of that person, right?
Exactly.
That person is unhappy. That person hasn't taken the steps to change their life so that they can be in a more positive state of mind, right?
Right.
And so make the content. You don't until you do it, you never know, right? And even if you only ever get 200 views your entire time, at least you can say that you tried something, right?
Right.
Like
And
it's the first step,
you're building a muscle
right?
that one of the things that I found for myself as I started making the videos and building the content is my ability to communicate my message got
Yes.
better. My message got more clear to me, which makes it really easy or much easier for me to communicate my message to somebody else. So
Yep.
one thing that you said, I just want to give you a chance to elaborate on that if you want. Um, the I'm going to just generalize and I'll call them haters. It's not haters necessarily, but you have
Sure.
the family members that say, that's a bad idea. You should do something different, or you should have the backup plan, or you should try something in addition to, or how did you continue to hold on to the belief that, no, I got this. I know it's going to be a learning curve, but I got it.
You know, I am the type of person like I have friends, right? But like I've always been like my own like I march by the beat of my own drum. And it's
Right.
like you guys can come with me if you want. I'd be happy to have you. But this is where I'm going, right? I'm not following anybody. I'm not looking for anybody's acceptance, right? And at one point in time, maybe like I felt like I needed to earn people's approval and things like that. But over time, as I've matured, it's like, hey, this is my life, right? This I need to make these decisions. And just because you don't think it's a good idea does not mean that it's not a good idea, right? And maybe it's not a good idea, but if you don't try, you're never going to know. And
Exactly.
honestly, you can't doubt yourself. You can't.
Right.
Because even if you fail, there is a lot of value in a lot that you can learn from failing.
Yes.
You can always try again, right? Take what you learned from your first failure and move it into whatever you do next.
Right.
And if you do that, you will succeed.
Yeah. I I love that because one of the things that I've learned is that when somebody comes up with the lack of faith or however you want to describe it, are you
Right.
sure? Don't you think they're not telling me that I don't think you're going to make it. They're
Right.
telling me I don't think I would make it. They're telling me about their concerns about them.
It wasn't yeah, it wasn't because they didn't want me to make it. They were afraid for me, right?
Sure.
They were afraid to see me fail.
Right.
They I chose a path that isn't typical, the
Yeah.
proverbial road less traveled, right? And um, any time that you stray from the path, right, people are going to worry about you. And unfortunately, it's often those whose opinions you value the most and who are closest to you in life that offer those opinions to you. And it is because they care, but I don't often think that they realize that sometimes, um, while they're entitled to an opinion, and while I respect their opinion, um, it is simply just that it was their opinion, and I remember my when I told my in-laws that I was going to be doing that, they were like, they didn't really say it, but they were looking at me like, how are you going to support our daughter fixing mixers, right? And I'm like, you just watch. And I've always been the type of person, like, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to work twice as hard to make it happen. To prove you wrong, like it's like I'm gonna make it happen. Don't I'll do it in spite of you.
Right. I love that. I know that you've done some traveling to get collections or get mixers. I heard something about a maybe a museum. What is the
Sure.
most unique experience you've had, either acquiring a mixer or a family story, or what's the most significant experience, if you can narrow it down to one?
That's a really good question. So I have traveled multiple times. I drove down to Texas to pick up a machine before. I've driven
And
down to
you're in
Oklahoma.
Kansas,
I'm in
right?
Kansas, by the way. So,
Yeah.
it was probably like 6 hours or something down to Texas. I drove 4 hours down to Oklahoma, but most recently, probably this Baltimore trip.
Hmm.
And, one of the reasons is the amount of stuff that I acquired. So
Okay.
I picked up some machines that, like, if you like, I got lucky to find it first off. But in the collection, there was a ton of old literature as well,
Oh,
like
wow.
literature from like the 20s and 30s, like very, very old stuff. And so I'm
Wow.
gonna try and preserve some of that stuff. But there was a few machines in there, the Model R, for example, which actually I have one right behind me. I'm gonna pull this up on camera because it's a neat
Wow.
machine. Look at that.
Yes.
So this is a machine from like the maybe late 1920s, maybe early 30s kind of era.
Wow.
And they did not make very many of those machines. There's stampings on the back of those that tell you like what production number it was. And in that literature, it said that they were made in limited quantities. So
Mhm.
I would imagine at that time in the 30s, that might only be 5,000 machines or something. So it's a rare piece. And I ended up getting five of them, which is amazing because I knew they existed, but I had never actually seen one before. And like if you go on like eBay, you can look something up. And even if there's not something listed, you can go up in the settings and you can look for listings that have sold, right?
Right.
You won't find one of those on eBay.
Wow.
So it's like a massive online marketplace where things sell, billions of things have sold on eBay. A Model R has not sold. And then also I got a Model M, which I didn't even know existed because I have never seen any information on it whatsoever.
Wow.
So when I saw that, I was looking at it, I'm like, what is that? So I still have a little studying to do on that, but that trip, it was a long trip, right? It was about 20 hours out there, 20 hours back. We had to rent a U-Haul trailer, build a 20-foot U-Haul from front to rear. I
Wow.
believe we picked up around 100 machines. We picked up, like I said, we got the literature, we got some vintage like KitchenAid signage, and it was just it was a unique experience, especially because I live in small town Kansas, right? And I've traveled around before. I've been to big cities, but like being in downtown Baltimore, like that's where we picked it up at. Uh it's almost a little out of my comfort zone, right? Because it's like I'm by myself in this big city, driving this big truck through this busy metropolitan area that I don't know where anything is at. And so I was white knuckling the whole way, but we made it through, and yeah, I think it was a positive experience.
It's
And
cool.
I'm very excited to take some of these pieces and make a museum out of it. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes and talking to us about what it takes to develop a passion for mixers. It's been so much fun for me. If somebody wants to get to know you better, follow you, find out what you're all about, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
yeah, so we are on almost every major social media channel. So we're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I would say we're probably most active on TikTok. That's where I have
Okay.
my biggest following. Um, but we do, like I said, post on all the platforms. Uh, just Google, if you Google Mr. Mixer, I'm going to pop up. We have access to our website. You have access to email. So people don't realize this, but you can literally just send us an email and say, hey, my mixer's doing something weird. What do I do to fix it? And we can oftentimes like help you diagnose and just link you whatever you need right over email. That makes it super, super easy.
Yeah.
Well, you can give us a call. I mean, we answer the phones. So,
Yeah.
there's any number of ways to reach us, and we would love to hear from you.
Cool. I will put links to your social accounts in the show notes
Cool.
so you can see those. And thanks so much for talking about how you can get excited about KitchenAid mixers
Yeah,
and the message that of several. One of the messages that I got is that it's not that the mixer is just the vehicle.
right,
It's there's a much bigger impact that you're having in people's lives by taking care of their mixers. And
right.
I love that. I love that you're reconnecting generations. That's fantastic. So thanks for taking the time, and we'll talk to y'all next week. Thanks for listening.
Get back to the work you love, where you face less stress, gain more happiness, and live into your purpose. Let me help you become unstuck and unstoppable so you can finally have the life you want. Head over to my website to connect with me at kenwilliamscoaching.com.